Well, I guess I'll give you a little bit of background about me and the game so you can just kind of understand what you're getting yourself into.
Sure. Okay.
um, I have played since I think probably March 2012. But I never played like serious or anything, but I did become like addicted. It was like my favorite game. I stopped playing like TF2 and all the other games that I was playing, and after a while I got my husband to play a little bit, but he never played very much, and then he stopped, and then now he's starting again, so he's having to relearn the whole game.
Hmm.
I played almost every day. I wasn't like super serious about it,
Right.
but I played a lot so that I improved a lot. I'm about 3.1K MMR. But I know like after watching other people play, there's so much that I can improve on. I don't even know where to start.
Hmm.
I think the biggest thing that I can improve on is probably positioning and camera movement. I'm really bad about that. Like
Hmm.
knowing where I should have my camera, where I should move it. I should also probably learn how to quick cast. I'm not too sure how to do that.
Okay.
But I don't know. I want somebody that like is really good to like look at me play and help me improve my fundamentals skills. I'm not a terrible player, but I'm definitely not great.
Yeah, 3.1K is like I think literally right about 50% um in terms of MMR related to other players. So that's a good way to describe it. Um
I
yeah.
I will say that I don't play ranked very often because I feel so bad, like just straight up guilty if
Hmm.
I'm like the person that's feeding or the person that is like a major contributor to the loss. I just feel terrible and I hate that feeling. So I haven't played a lot of ranked MMR because I just don't want to ruin everyone else's day, like
Yeah, no, I completely understand that. My only answer to that is that everyone feeds and everyone ruins games. It doesn't matter if it's like the little 15-year-old kid from Brazil who is playing and just enjoying his game, or it's, a 21-year-old professional Dota player. Like everyone feeds and everyone ruins games. So yeah, it's okay to feel bad about literally losing your team the game. Like if you weren't in the game, it was 4v5. Your team would have actually won. Like it's okay to feel bad about that, but you can't like dwell on it. You kind of just have to move on afterward. Like take what you can from the game. Like okay, why did I feed? Was it because of my positioning? Was I not respecting a certain player? Did I not understand a certain matchup? Did I not build the correct items? And then after you learn that lesson, you kind of have to just move on. Like okay, switch gears, go next game, or just take a break if it's like really bothering you. Um,
yeah.
Unfortunately, that's much easier said than done. um, yeah, which is the big problem. But yeah, that's my advice as far as that goes. At least generally. Um,
Um,
yeah.
I hate playing carry. Like
Okay.
the pressure for carry. I mean, I will. I'll do it if that. I'll play whatever the team needs.
Hmm.
And I've had success playing carry, but I'm happiest in the role of support or off lane,
Okay.
especially in the role of support because I'm a very active player. I like to rotate and move around the map a lot. And for me, carries have to farm so much,
Yep.
and especially early game, they don't get to be as involved typically, like especially the hard carry.
Yep.
So it's for me, it's not as fun. I also like to be the person that sets up someone else to be super successful and get fed. So that or to save someone's ass with a mech and a force or whatever. So
Right.
but I will play any position. One of my favorites lately is Marana offlane because I Marana Ags is overpowered. I hope they nerf it. It's a little too strong.
Yeah, it's
So,
pretty strong. I don't know if
but
it needs a nerf, but either way.
I mean, if you get a BKB, it's not going to touch you. But I just think she's a lot of fun. I've gotten a lot better at landing her arrows and positioning myself
Hmm.
with her. I think my positioning has improved just from playing her
Right.
because you have to position yourself to land arrows. So I've gotten a little better about that. But So offlane or support's my favorite position. I'm not opposed to playing carry, and I would like to learn to play all positions well.
Hmm.
But carry's definitely my least favorite. It's just not as involved from the start for me.
Okay, yeah, no, that's fine. We can focus on offlane and support. I generally recommend that you pick like one carry that you just enjoy playing. Usually people have like one hero that like they don't mind playing in case they have to play it in pubs or whatever. Um, I just recommend picking one or two in each role. We can go through that later if that's what you want. But other than that, we can focus on support and offlane. That'll be totally fine. Um, can you link me your Dota buff really quick? I just want to check
Oh
some stuff out.
shoot, yeah. I haven't- I don't even know what it looks like. I haven't looked at it in so long. Okay, hold on. I have been playing a lot with my husband lately. He hasn't. How do I get my actual link for it? Oh,
Couple
I guess
ways.
I think I got it. I think this is it.
Okay.
Um, oh my God, I never use Skype. Now I got to figure out how to message you without hanging up on you.
It's just in the bottom right, where it's like a little chat bubble. You just click that.
Aha, thank you.
Yep.
Okay. So like my husband just recently started playing again, so I've been helping him a lot
Hmm.
to learn to get better. He's actually, for somebody that doesn't play often, he is miles ahead of where I was. He watches a lot more games than I ever did.
Yeah.
So,
That's actually something I recommend to like people who are not really new, but are pretty new, but have played like 100 games or so. Is you should spend a lot of time watching if you really want to get better, because that just kind of like it makes it much easier to learn lessons that way. Like at least the basic stuff. Like okay, maybe I shouldn't build like data lists on CM. I don't know. Maybe that's just not a good idea. Or like
yeah,
you get all of that like silly stuff out of the way that you wouldn't know
yeah.
if you hadn't played before, or if you haven't played a lot of games anyway. So that's good.
I know.
Okay.
So a lot of my games have been normal skill queues lately because
Hmm.
I have been playing with him and his, I guess the skill bracket that the game puts him in because he hasn't played a lot is like normal skill. Typically, when I solo queue, which I haven't solo queued in so long,
Right.
except for when I did my ranked, it would be normal or high skill. Very rarely would I get very high skill. And typically, when I get those games, I'm like drowning, like, holy crap, thank God
Hmm.
I picked support. Because it's just scary.
Yeah, I understand. Um, I wouldn't worry about the skill bracket so much. Like it doesn't really matter. Like basically the way it works is I think its normal skill is like 3.3k or something or and below. I don't know the exact numbers. And then high skill is like somewhere in between 3.3 and 3.8. And then everything above 3.8 is very high skill. So there's really not too much variation, honestly. Most of the variation is probably in your head. Um,
Yeah, I could just feel the difference.
mhm.
Like when I would get in the very high ones, and I'd just be like, wow, I got carried.
Yeah,
Like, I'm just like, thank you.
yeah. Yeah, I can understand what you mean. Okay, so in regards to the rank thing though, as someone like how do I explain this? So I think you should just try to stick to playing ranked if you can. Like obviously if you're playing with your husband, like by all means do that. I completely understand. But if you're solo queuing, I definitely recommend playing ranked as much as you can. The logic being is just like people are gonna try harder in ranked, so they're gonna be better. That's just how it is. Um, and that in turn, if you're playing against better players constantly and you're doing it every game, then or every game you can, then you're gonna get better faster because you have to like up your game if you want to keep improving and climbing MMR and all that. So that's my personal recommendation. I mean, you can improve by playing normal games. Don't get me wrong, but the fastest way to improve is definitely through ranked. Um,
Right.
but either way, it's fine as long as you're like looking at your games and like actively trying to get better. It'll happen.
Yeah, I think I played two ranked, no, I need to look, two ranked games like yesterday, three ranked games yesterday. And the first one I lost, and then the other two I won.
Hmm.
The disruptor one particularly,
Okay.
we won, and I was basically solo support that game, which never really bothers me. I'm fine with that. Whatever, I don't care.
Right.
But it was such a rough game for me because they had a Slark on the other team
Hmm.
who had a Shadow Blade, and while my team would be like, I tried to never be by myself because of that.
Hmm.
but he would always pick me off and then most of the time get away because the rest of my team wouldn't carry vision or, he would just ult and get away. And so I kind of like went like full frustration mode and bought like 8 sentries and just started throwing them down in the middle of team fight.
I mean,
But
that's honestly fine.
it kind of worked out. And then I got a ghost scepter in a gym, and he couldn't really mess with me anymore. But I don't know what to do in situations like that, like where you just have one player on the other team who is just destroying you, and there's like what there wasn't much I could do. Even like I tried to stay with my team the whole time. I just
Hmm.
don't know like in that situation what to do other than just buy a ton of sentries and lay them everywhere so
Yeah,
that I could see it coming.
that's pretty much what you have to do is just take preventative action. Not dying the first time is really big actually, because if he kills you once, like in the Slark versus Disruptor matchup, you kind of just become food for the rest of the game. I'm not saying like, if he kills you once, it's game over, just sit in the fountain or whatever, but it becomes really difficult for you because that sets you back golds. Buying sentries is less attractive because it's going to delay your other items. It's going to delay obs, all that other stuff. Um, so yeah, trying to prevent the first death is really good, but I mean, you reacted appropriately. Maybe it was a little bit too slow or whatever, but just buying detection is totally fine. Slark's big thing is that he just goes into a fight and kills a support or whoever he wants, and there's nothing you can do about it if you don't have like AOE untargeted stunts. Like Lina stun or Lashrak stun, something where like if he goes into whatever the fuck it's called, Shadow Walk, Dark Bag,
Yeah, I know
Shadow
what you're
Dance.
talking about.
Yeah, if he Shadow Dances, then you can stun him during that. So unless you have one of those things, you're kind of just gonna die. Um, the way you deal with that is either just like know that he's coming in and try to use your abilities properly to prevent him from doing anything, or your team plays around the idea that hey, Disruptor's gonna die and there's nothing we can do about it, so let's try to make sure he gets the spells off before he does, um, by starting a fight or something like that. It's kind of tricky to be honest. I don't think it's something you should worry about. Like the placing sentries is totally fine. That's a great start. Um,
Yeah, I got that and a ghost scepter to hopefully be able to live through his initial pounce.
yeah, no, that's a good
It
start.
worked eventually, but I mean, I died 9 times because of it.
Hmm.
So I was just like, oh my God, I'm
Yeah,
feeding so much.
that's like that's a few too many. Um, okay. Ghost Scepter was a good buy this game though. I did share my screen on Skype, so you can just watch that.
Oh,
Um,
sweet. I was like in the game looking.
yep. Okay. So, I mean, your item build was fine this game. Like you were a bit behind, but I mean, if you die 9 times, that's gonna happen. Um, but I think your item choices were appropriate. Like the gem is good, the Ghost Scepter is obviously good. They have 4 right-clicking heroes, so that's pretty high value. Um, yeah, that's fine. Is this a game that you want to watch, or do you want to watch another one?
Um, I was watching that game while just waiting for this, just to look to see like if I could spot anything that I could really do differently. But
Hmm.
I know there's a ton of things I could do differently. Like
Okay.
early game, it was PA and I versus Spirit Breaker early. And I stacked and pulled as much as I could,
Hmm.
but like I don't. Maybe I could have helped mid, like and ganked mid. I probably should have done that. I
Okay.
didn't, but I probably should have. I rotated like not long after stuff started going down top a lot. I rotated, but so
Okay.
yeah, this one or the lion one or any of them actually
Okay. I'll
would
just
be
download
fine. I
the
don't really care.
Disruptor one. This is a pretty good game because it's one of those games where it's going to be pretty snowbally for you. So I want to see what happened on your first death. Um,
I don't even. Oh wait, I think the first death was a team fight, and then I was disengaging, and Windrunner had a blink and like blinked and caught
mhm.
me. My
Okay.
first 2 deaths were from her blinking. One of them she towered over and died after she healed me, so I was okay with that one because she gave up her life for mine, and
Hmm.
I'm position 5, so whatever.
Yeah. I mean, you're going to feed in this game. It's just a matter of like, kind of toning it down as much as you can. That is like that's the unfortunate truth of playing support sometimes is you are going to feed in some games, but the really great supports will know when it's a good time to feed. Like when it's, if I die here, okay, it's really not that bad. So they put themselves in those positions. I'd say most people don't have to worry about that honestly until you're like 7K or something. Um, but yeah, that's just That's the hard
Yeah.
truth of playing support, is you're going to feed sometimes.
90% of the time, I'm okay if I die, as long as I'm getting like one of my carries or somebody on my team is getting something out of it.
Right.
Like if I'm a support, I'm totally cool with that.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, ideally, you don't have to die, of course, but
Yeah.
yeah. Okay. So, starting items. Okay, did Abaddon buy this? No, you bought it. Okay.
I'm never
Okay.
sure quite like if I should spend all my money right at the start
hmm
or not.
I would
That
say you
that time I
do.
did. Okay.
Yeah, I would say you should. So the issue I see right now, you bought Courier and Obs, which is great. Um, but I kind of think you guys need sentries. I don't know like who your other support is. It could be Pudge or Abaddon. I'd imagine it's Abaddon. Um,
No, actually, nobody really supported. I
oh,
pretty
okay, yeah.
much did it all by myself that game.
Okay.
Everyone else kind of just did their own thing, which I wasn't complaining. I don't
Yeah,
really
that's
care.
fine. That's fine. That's gonna happen. In that case, this is probably fine. I think like if you need sentries in this case, like if you're winning against a Broodmother or something, I would say buy those instead of the Observers. They're gonna be higher value for you. Um,
Okay.
there's like this weird thing where sometimes it's okay to buy sentries in lanes where you think your camp is going to get blocked as well. Or save your money, actually. That's probably a better option, actually, now that I think about it. So if you think that you're going to be in a lane where you can't zone the offlaner, so like let's say you're playing against, it's really hard offlaner to zone, like, not Broodmother, because that's too obvious. Hmm.
Timber Cell's pretty hard to zone. Well, I mean,
He
because
can be tough. He can be tough, but he can, like, you can zone him out. He's just a little bit harder than usual. I'm trying to think of someone that, like, if you attack, you just die.
oh
There are a
yeah.
couple. Um, maybe like a Marana actually. You can't 1v1 zone her. She'll eventually overpower you. Or maybe okay, Nyx is different as well. You can't really zone Nyx if he buys mangoes. So let's go with that. Let's say you're playing against somebody who you can't zone for one reason or another. Maybe they have too much regen. Maybe they're going to like out trade you to the point where you just shouldn't trade with them. Or maybe it's like a dual offlane or something. Where you can't trade with two heroes 2v1 obviously. Um, In that case, if you're solo support, it might be in your best interest to buy sentries instead of observers. That way, if they block this camp, you have some kind of like backup plan. You can go pull. And that's like, kind of effectively zoning them in a sense where you're denying them XP and you're also gaining some XP. Um,
Right. I did stack and pull in this one. Even like
mhm.
I even prevented Spirit Breaker from pulling once because you know how they can pull from the side camp.
Right, right.
But I didn't get sentries. And like, so in this situation where I know that their Legion is probably going to jungle, should I bother trying to block any of her jungle camps?
No, I don't think so. I think she's going to get farmed no matter what. Unless
Oh,
like your whole team decides like, okay, we're going to commit like a couple sentries or like a couple people buying sentries and we're going to go block all our camps. It's really not worth it. Um,
okay.
it's too risky. And pubs it, and it's really not a big deal. Like she's gonna get farmed no matter what. So,
Okay.
um, okay. So let's just see how you played out the lane. I think other than that, your items are fine. You could substitute a branch or substitute a fairy fire for one of the branches. That's totally fine as well.
Oh, okay. I didn't think about that.
hmm
I was
It's gonna
just
be pretty good.
thinking stats, like it's stats. And
Yeah.
I didn't have a lot of money left over, so.
See, you can do that. That's pretty inconsequential, but that fairy fires can be pretty big when you're trading. So that's something to think about. I do think that you should not be here at the start of the game. You should just like immediately buy your items and then head out to bottom lane.
Yeah,
Go
I
here.
was going to. Timber asked me for some tangos, so I went to give them to him.
Oh, okay, that's fine. Yeah, ideally, like that's just something you do automatically. Is just give the mid a couple tangos and head out, because most people are gonna want some. It helps a lot, especially mid laners that are melee heroes that buy PMS because they can't afford any at that point. Um, so yeah, getting into that habit would be good. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so Spearbreaker goes in. This is a good opportunity for you to check Spearbreaker's items, just see what he has. He doesn't have anything big. Actually, the big thing you can gather here is he only has one set of regen, and you have two tangos and a salve, so you have him beat when it comes to regen. So if you just trade effectively, then you can actually like prevent him from being in this lane, which is really good.
Should I get a salve? I almost always do, so I could give it to my carry or myself just in case we need it. But
hmm
should I bother with that?
I do if there's a bounty hunter on the enemy team, like someone where there's no way that I can always prevent damage being dealt to me. In this lane, like you can prevent it in a lot of cases. Like he can obviously charge at you, but if you're positioning well, then if he charges, he's going to take more damage, you know, because your
I could
carry will
glimpse
respond
him
or whatever.
back too.
Right. Yeah. Whereas like a bounty hunter, he can just pop on you right now, and there's no way you can prevent it. Like the only way you prevent it is by like sitting in fountain. That's the only way you're safe. So in that case, I would buy a salve, but most of the time I just buy one set of tangos and be careful, and just try to trade smart. But buying a salve is totally fine. There's nothing wrong with it.
Okay.
I do think your approach to this lane is incorrect though. In this kind of situation where you're disruptor against a melee hero, who he has a way to get on top of you and like attack you, like he has a gap closer with charge. Um, he's not really that good at fighting though, because if he charges you, you just get stunned and then you run away. It's that simple. And then when he turns to go back, you just turn and hit him, and you keep kiting him like you do the cat and mouse chase. So in this kind of lane, you want to start with Thunderstrike and just immediately run around this way and start attacking him. Thunderstrike, you know, use all your stuff and start zoning him out immediately. Especially because he doesn't have much regen. He only has 4 tangos.
Okay.
When you do that though, you want to make sure you don't aggro the range creep.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the only thing. But yeah, that should definitely be your approach to this lane. So stacking and pulling is great, but it's not as good as being able to zone the offlaner. Because if you think about it, like Spearbreaker's big thing is that he's a ganker. That's what Spearbreaker does. He gets levels and then he ganks. He is not a farmer. He can't jungle. Like this hero is worthless in the jungle, even with an Iron Talon. It's pathetic. So if you prevent him from getting levels, then he's useless. Like he can get level 2 and he's okay, but he's really not that great until he's like, you know, level 5, level 6. And you have the power in this case to prevent him from getting a lot of levels with PA.
Okay.
So that should be your main goal in this game, because he has no backup plan if he doesn't get levels. He has to like go for Hail Mary ganks, you know, starting at 2 minutes. And if you're 2 minutes into a game and you have to start making Hail Mary plays where just like you're all inning something, that's not good for you. So yeah, that should be your approach.
Okay.
Okay. So you get kinetic field. That's not too bad. Okay. Yeah, the reason I said get Thunderstrike is just because I think it's the strongest nuke in the game at level 1. It does 44 strikes. Yeah, no, it does quite a bit. So it does like 160 damage before, is that correct? Yeah, that's correct. 160 damage before resist. So that's quite a lot of damage. Most nukes do like around 75 after, and 100 before resist, so that would be really good. Okay, so what happened here? Why is the wave messed up?
Oh my God, you move the camera so fast. This is what I need to learn to do, is move the camera this fast.
Yeah, no, I just click on the minimap. That's like usually the best way to do it. That's actually something we can talk about. So how do you usually move your camera? Do you do the edge panning like this?
Yes.
Okay, so that's not bad. I think it's okay for like small distances. Like if you're laning, you can just do this really quick. Or go back and forth, something like that. My only problem with it is I don't like that you have to move your mouse away from like whatever you're doing. So like if you're laning here and you're last hitting, and you know you're trying to attack your lane opponent, then you're trying to run back, then you're trying to cast a spell. It's kind of an awkward movement to just move your camera up. It can become, you know, like muscle memory, and you can get good at it. But I kind of prefer camera grip, like using the middle mouse. I don't know if you've
Okay.
tried that or not, but I find that to
No.
be really good for small distances. Because you can see I can move my camera while keeping my cursor like, you know, relatively close to the center of the lane where like all the action's happening. So I prefer that. And then for like bigger distances, you obviously wouldn't just like, you know, go all the way up here. You just click really quick on the mini map.
Yeah, for like to go like I use the mini map if I'm going like long distances with the camera, but
Right.
yeah, usually I do the edge scrolling.
Okay. Yeah. No, the edge scrolling is completely fine. Like you don't have to change that really. You can if you want, and it wouldn't be the biggest deal. But yeah, it's personal preference really. As long as you're clicking on the mini map for like long distance stuff, you're probably fine. The rest of it's pretty inconsequential. Okay. Alright, so I want to see what happens to cause this lane to just mess up like this. Alright. Okay. So it should be completely even. Oh, okay, yeah. So this isn't something you can prevent, but it is something that you can see and try to like fix by pulling. So what's happening here is these creeps are on the wrong side of the lane. So like the enemy creeps and your creeps. So what's going to happen is these creeps are going to get focused by your creeps before your creeps get focused by the enemy creeps. And that means they die, and then all of a sudden there are just 6 melee creeps, or 5 melee creeps, attacking the 4 melee creeps of the enemy team. So, 5 beats 4 in most cases if they're the same units. So that's going to cause the lane to push. This is something you kind of have to keep track of as a support. Really, in an ideal scenario, the carry would tell you, like, hey, the lane's going to push, I messed up, sorry, can you pull? But in pubs, that's not going to happen. Like, if it happens, it'd be a miracle. So in this case, your best bet would be to go pull. Ideally, you had already been zoning Spirit Breaker, but yeah, that's completely fine. But the way you recover from this and prevent him from getting a ton of experience at his tower from the wave pushing is by pulling. So that should be your main goal right now, especially since you already stacked this. You have a good backup plan. Alternatively, you could just pull this camp. Like you could eat a tree here and just pull it through, and you could save it that way. It'd be a little bit awkward. You'd have to get the timing really correct, but also you could just instead of pulling this specific wave, you can just let this one go to the tower and concede it and pull the next one, and that's like a good compromise.
Okay. So should she be like constantly daggering Spirit Breaker herself?
Not until later. Like she doesn't have the mana to sustain it early on, but once it gets down to 15 mana or even 20 mana, she can start sustaining it, so that's good. It really doesn't do that much damage until she gets crit, or until she gets like phase boots or something. But
unless you're a squishy support, and then it hurts.
Yeah, well, even then, early on, it doesn't do that much. It's just like an auto attack, or I guess like 2 auto attacks really. But either way, she can't really sustain it. Like it does 75 base, and whatever her attack damage is, and Spirit Breaker has 960 HP. It's almost 1,000, and he has 5 armor, so it's really not gonna do too much. But if she gets crit, then it starts to do quite a bit. So that's when it becomes good. So yeah, I guess just long story short is if she has the mana to sustain it, yes, but most will not. There's no reason to like have items that will do that. Okay.
Yeah, I think I missed that stack. Yeah, I did. Yeah. I was like, when I missed it, I was like, no.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so do you know how to do the pull through, like the connect?
I do. I don't do it often, but I do know how to do it. I watched a video on it. I think PPD did a whole big video on like warding and camp stacking and pulling and stuff, and so I learned how to do it there.
Yeah, I think that's something you should try to practice a little bit and get used to, because a couple of reasons. So if you were to pull this camp and have this creep wave attack this camp, what would happen is like 2 of these small neutrals would die before your creep wave, or before oh, English is so hard. All right, so these creeps these creeps would die, and 2 creeps would die in this camp. So basically, like, that's not very much XP. Whereas if you single pull this and don't stack it, all of these creeps would die, and your creeps would live. So, or like maybe like 2 creeps would die, 2 lane creeps anyway. So you get more XP that way, but the problem is the lane pushes. So the way to compromise this, or the way to compromise and like recover from that, is by pulling through, and that means that all of your creeps die, and all of these creeps die, and maybe like the medium creep here dies. So like maybe this blue satyr. So you get more XP that way, and the lane doesn't push. That's why pulling through is so important.
Okay.
See, like we can watch here since you just pulled. So what's going to happen is like maybe 2 of the small neutral creeps will die before your creep wave does. Or maybe like 2 ghosts and something like that. Okay, yeah. So just the 2 little small ghosts. Let's see how much XP that gave you. Okay, you start at 199, then you go to 81, and that's all you get. So that really wasn't that much. It counts, like it's certainly good, but compared to like the whole camp dying, it's very inconsequential. Yeah, so that's generally what I recommend. The stack pulling is great because it prevents the wave from pushing. Like it's a guaranteed way to just like stop this wave from getting, or stop the offlaner from getting any XP. That's great, but really the thing with pulling is functionally it's there for you to get experience. It's not to just deny the offlaner in most cases. And you're not going to get as much experience if you don't single pull and then pull through.
Right.
Okay. So yeah, I definitely recommend practicing that. I mean, also you could just do it in a custom game and just like mess around with it and try to find what works for you. I know this camp can be pretty tricky to pull, but it's doable. It's a little
Yeah,
bit
it's a
easier
lot.
now.
Yeah, it's a lot harder than the other one.
Hmm. Yeah, this one is like it's safer, but it's definitely harder. It's safer because like if the offlaner catches you at the sweet spot where you're pulling through and you attack this creep camp, he can just come and attack these and prevent the pull, and that's like a huge disaster because then like you only get the XP from the small camp and your lane pushes. So that's why this camp is a little bit safer because it's less likely for the offlaner to do that. But yeah, but I mean,
It's
just doing this one is fine, honestly. Like just connecting this one. Yeah. Okay.
it's just the timing for me, like the knowing when to pull it over before the small camp dies.
Oh yeah. Okay. Actually, there's a video Purge did. I'm gonna send you a message to remind me. Video pulling. He has a pretty good way of explaining it, I think.
Okay.
So I'll link you the video afterward. Um, but yeah. Okay. So actually, are these? Okay. So most of these end up dying. In this case, you definitely want to kill this creep by yourself, just because like you want to get a fresh creep camp in, because now you're in this weird situation where like you would have to stack again in order to pull, and then you would probably have to pull through anyway. So definitely want to clean this camp up.
Okay.
Also, I'm not sure if you went for runes or not, but that's another thing to think about. If it's safe, like if it's an offlaner that you don't really have to worry about too much, then you definitely want to go contest the runes. Also, you have to keep, their mid in mind and all that, but they're pretty important usually. Okay. I think you guys should have gone on. Yeah, okay. So that was just like, you guys were on different pages there, which is fine.
Yeah, I assumed that she would go on him, and then she didn't, and then he
Hmm.
turned back, and that was like a disaster for him, I
Hmm.
think.
Yeah, I think in this situation, you kind of have to like play proactively and just like know that going on him is the right move. So you start pinging a little bit. Like don't go crazy and just like spam ping everywhere. But like
Right.
two pings on Spirit Breaker will like if PA is gonna get the idea, that will be good enough. And if she's not, then well whatever. You can't do anything about it. Because I think he would have died here if you guys went at the same time. Okay, I have to sneeze. 1 second. Okay,
God bless you.
thank you. Okay, so what's going on here?
He did die. He got greedy and came back down, and we punished him for it. But yeah, it took a lot more work than it should have.
Hmm. Yeah, so like this is kind of like a gimme kill. I don't know. He just like there's no reason for him to be here. He's being a goober. Um, yeah, if he just went back to base, that wouldn't happen. So I mean, there's not much to be said about that. I don't think that's fine. Okay, so you pick up some obs and a TP. Go back to pulling. Okay. Um, were you trying to pull this camp?
Yeah, since there was only one in there, I was trying to pull him out
Oh,
and
okay.
like so the camp could spawn like
Okay.
a full stack. But then Pudge rotated, and I was like, "Oh, I should probably help if they're trying to do something here."
Okay. Yeah,
So,
that's fine. That's fine. Okay. You don't really have much mana here, so there's not too much you can do.
no.
Only criticism for this fight really is it'd be good if you went and like just kind of tried to see what Pudge was doing at the same time. It can be tricky when you're fighting like one hero to just just completely abandon looking at him and look at something else. But getting the information would be nice. But it's pretty small. I wouldn't worry about that too much.
Yeah, I thought that he was going to try and hook Keeper, and I wasn't going to tower dive because I'm too
Hmm.
damn squishy. So I was like, he's got that. Like, he
Yeah.
can tower dive.
Well, you should try not to have that mindset though, because like you can tower dive. It's just like you have to be careful about it. Like Spirit Breaker is a great tower diving hero because he has so much armor and so much HP. Like he can tank more tower hits. But your hero can dive too. It's just you have much less HP to work with, so it has to be like under specific circumstances. Like, okay, I can dive here, but I only need one right click and maybe like a Thunder Strike or something. Um, so definitely don't eliminate the idea of tower diving because you're a squishy hero, because it's still possible in some cases.
Okay. I was going to ask you, how does someone take uh like the tower aggro off of someone? Is that possible?
I don't think you can take the aggro unless
You
like
So I would have to like a click one of my creeps or another hero to get the tower off of me. Like PA couldn't
mhm.
actively get the tower to attack her in any way.
Correct. Yeah, I don't think
Okay.
there's any way to like transfer aggro. I mean, you can obviously get the aggro off you by issuing an attack command on a friendly unit, like your creeps or like your towers or something like that, or an enemy or a friendly hero rather. But I don't think there's any way to like take the aggro. I think that'd be too overpowered actually.
Okay.
Um, I might look into that, but I'm pretty sure there's no way to do that. Um, okay. So you get an invis rune, which is good. You head up towards top. One trick you can do when you get invis runes is, since there's a little bit of a fade time, when you grab it, you can run an opposite way. And that way, if the enemy team has a ward here, like and they see you like start to fade out and you run towards bottom, then you can just head back towards top. You can kind of fake them out that way.
Okay.
Because here, like if they see you fade out and you're running towards here, they kind of have an idea of where you're going, or at least they have a better idea of where you're going. The same, you could have been doing the same thing where like you faked running towards mid and run bottom, but yeah, that's just something to keep in mind.
Okay.
Okay,
So there
so
was a lot of shit going down top, so I
mhm,
headed that way.
okay, yeah, we can watch this. Okay.
I tried to body block Windrunner right there. It didn't work but I was trying to body block her because she was wind running.
Right, right. Wait, does that give her that's evasion? Okay, yeah, it doesn't give her like what's it called? Like ghost status. Like she can't phase, that's it. Like she doesn't phase through units. I think she just ran by you.
Yeah, Spirit Breaker charged me and it
Hmm.
and stunned me, so I couldn't get the block on her.
Okay,
But
yeah,
that's
that
what I
makes
was
sense.
trying to do. If you were wondering
Okay.
why I was like following her, I was just hoping to block her.
Okay, yeah, that's completely fine. I'm not sure if you can do it right at the top. I know you can do it right here, like if you stand right in the middle of these two rocks, but I'm not sure if you can do it here. You might be able to, depending on your unit, but yeah, either way, that's pretty inconsequential. Let's go back, like way back to the beginning. Okay, a little too far back, but that's fine.
Yeah, that's okay.
Okay, so you run up here and you place a ward.
Yeah,
Um,
I was pretty upset about my wording here. Actually, it was kind of redundant.
yeah, it's really redundant. That's what I was gonna say. It's like I mean, if you know that already, then it's fine. Like I don't have to explain it too much. Um, I would say it'd be better to get a deeper ward in this case against Spirit Breaker and Legion Commander. I'd say this one is higher value if you had to choose. Since you can do it relatively safely, like there's a whole fight going on here, you can be pretty choosy. So I would go with this one, just because like if Spirit Breaker is charging through a lane from Fountain, he's gonna go like this, like up through top, or he's gonna
Right.
go down the lane or whatever. But yeah, you can't ward everything. So this is a better option in my opinion. And also you can see all these camps where Legion might be, so it's pretty helpful. So let's look at the actual fight. Okay. First things first is you should be trying to like while you're warding, you can just like shift Q, so you can shift Q to place a ward and then start running towards the fight or wherever you want to go. And during that time, you should be looking around and seeing what spells are cast, because like that really matters, right? Like they have a Blink Windrunner, a Spirit Breaker. Coddle's not really that important, but yeah, and they have a Slark as well. So if you know that Windrunner already used Blink and Shackle, and Spirit Breaker used Charge and Ult, then you're pretty safe for the most part until the spells come up. So yeah, that's definitely something you should try to do if you're running towards a fight. It's just like get an idea of what's going on beforehand. Okay. Oh, we should talk about spell usage because spells are important, right? Okay.
Yeah, I was hoping it would glimpse him back farther, and it
Hmm.
didn't. I was like, no. I
Yeah.
was so sad about it.
Yeah, that's something that the camera movement would actually help with a lot. Because if you were like watching whoever your target was, like in this case it was Coddle, then you would kind of be able to get a better idea of where it was going to glimpse him. Um, because like if you had waited here and you just thunderstriked him and then started chasing him a little bit, then as soon as he got out of your range, when he was like, let's say he keeps running here, you could glimpse him back and then get more hits off. In that case, assuming you commit to it, you get what I mean?
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, the camera movement would have helped a little bit here, but it's all good. In terms of like actual target selection, I don't think you had many better options.
I was going for the lowest guy, the squishiest guy, hoping that one of my carries could finish him off.
Hmm. Yeah, so this is tricky. This is one of those things where like you have the right idea, like you hope your carries finish him off or whatever, but I think it's better to cast your spells with the intent of something specific happening. Like, okay, if I glimpse this guy, he's gonna go back a certain distance, back to a spot, and I can kinetic field him there, and then my Timbersaw, who is in range of that specific spot, will be able to kill him guaranteed. All he has to do is press his buttons. Um, that's kind of the approach you should take when you're playing support. Is like, okay, I'm gonna cast my spells and something direct, and I know like what the outcome is gonna be. It shouldn't be like I'm gonna cast my spells and hope that they work, or like hope something happens. Sometimes that's all you gotta do. Like you're running away from 5 heroes and you're just gonna press all your buttons because you're dead. Um, but in team fights like this where you're not under too much pressure, I think it'd be in your best interest to try to think about the outcome of the situation. Like, what happens if I cast Glimpse on this guy right now? Like, if you were to Glimpse Spiritbreaker right now, what's going to happen? He's going to get his ult off and then get Glimpse back, and that's all. It's not really going to be too helpful. Or if you Glimpse Caudle right now, like, okay, he's been standing in this spot for a couple of seconds now. He's just going to go back to, like, right here. That's not going to be very helpful. Same thing with Windrunner, really. So, yeah, I mean, I think people could write essays on this stuff, like proper usage of spells as support or whatever in team fights, but um, I think the best way to break it down, or best way to like get you in the correct mindset, is to just say that try not to cast your spells unless you. That's bad too, actually. Fuck. This is so like the language here is so tricky. Um, hmm. Okay, so don't be afraid to just cast your spells like randomly, but if you have time beforehand, try to think about what's going to happen. Because sometimes like you're going to be in a team fight and it's going to be too much pressure for you at the time, and you're just going to like press your buttons and hope they work, and that's okay. Obviously, it's not ideal, but if you can, try your best to improve on that over time. Like try to slow down the moment a little bit, because really the game isn't that fast. It's not like an FPS game where like you literally need to like flick your mouse towards somebody and click and headshot them and like move a certain way and then flash a certain area and then go in and like move forward and headshot another guy. It's like relatively slow even though it feels fast. So
There's just a lot going on.
yeah, it's all about like taking everything in and like trying to see what's going on and like getting the important bits of information. Because like I think it's nearly impossible to look at like a 21-inch monitor or whatever you have, and take in all of the information on it. Like there's so much going on here. This isn't even a big team fight; it's like a skirmish. But there's so much going on, like in terms of positioning, spells cast, HP, all that stuff. So I think if you try your best to calm down during team fights and just slow down the moment and try to take in as much information as you can, that will in turn improve your spellcasting a little bit. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. So I think that'd be in your best interest. And we can finally move on from this team fight that we spent like 10 minutes on. Alright.
So was trying to body block her right there actually the right move for me?
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, it's tricky because like you get stunned and everything. I'd say if you want to do it, the best approach is because you're getting charged here. If you start running down the hill, that would be your best option. I mean, you don't really have too much time to work with, honestly, but yeah. I think it was fine. Like, if anything, it's pretty inconsequential, honestly. It'd be slightly different if you were already positioned farther back to where you could get to this spot, and then it would be really good. Because then, like, she obviously can't run through. But because she has a blink, it's just really difficult to actually do it. So you would have to damage her in some way, like with Thunderstrike or an auto attack if she wasn't windrunning. So, I mean, it was the right play, but it's probably not going to happen. It's a little
So
unrealistic.
now I'm out of here, but they have a ward right there. She sees me and shackles me and I'm dead.
Right, okay.
So
Yeah.
that was my first death.
So this is just like an awareness thing for sure. I think what happened here, like, or I'm gonna make an assumption anyway, is once Windrunner blinked away, you kind of just like checked out. Like, okay, you checked her off the list, like, okay, Windrunner's gone out of the fight forever. But she stayed on the outskirts, and I think if you had been paying attention, like, and actively looking around and looking for her, or just looking for any threats in general, you would have seen her. So it is like, it's tricky for you to know that there's a ward here, but there's like she's giving some clear signs. Like, the team fight just barely ended, and she's just randomly running towards you, like on the map. Like you can see her direction and everything. So if she's just running here, like once she passes a certain point, it becomes obvious that she's not going for the creep camp. Like, okay, so once she's right here, like she's in auto attack range of these creeps. If she wanted to do it, she would just attack. So when she starts running here, you kind of have to like, okay, she's like clearly going after somebody in the river, and I'm the only person here, so it's probably me. So at that point, you need to shift and go this way. That's just a map awareness thing, though. Not really any advice I can give you other than look at your map, which is super unhelpful. But yeah.
I was just like, no.
Yeah, those deaths kind of suck because they're just, I don't know, they make you feel bad. Okay, so you buy an obs and you start heading towards top. I will say your CS is pretty low for this time. I know you're solo supporting, so that sucks. But
Yeah, I'm really bad about if I'm playing like position 5, I don't take any farm from anyone on the team. Like I defer everything. I know I probably shouldn't, but I always do.
yeah, you definitely gotta get some farm. In one way or another. Maybe it's like doing a jungle camp here and then when you know there's gonna be downtime, or like you see PA go top to gank or something like that, and you just go farm bottom. Usually middle lane is like the most commonly farmed spot for supports because it's like relatively safe. It's pretty hard to gank mid, you know, in most cases if you're on high ground. And also the mid laner is usually pretty active, like they usually gank or they go do runes or something like that, or even they might go jungle and then you can take rune or take the lane. So that's something you can start implementing is trying to farm mid if possible, or just like if you see a lane leaving that isn't off lane, then you can go farm it or whatever. You want to stay away from offlane just because, like, okay, so this hero is laning against 3 heroes from the start of the game in most cases, or 2 heroes or whatever. As a position 5 solo support, I'm probably not going to fare very well against him. Maybe you will. Maybe you see a hero combination that would work or whatever, but yeah. So unless it's under the tower or whatever, you probably want to stay away from farming this lane. Middle lane is a really good option.
Okay.
Yeah, it's definitely really, really important that you try to keep your item progression going. Because, like, yes, wards are super important, and they make the game so much easier. Detection, incredibly important. Must buy in most games. Probably all games, actually. It's like sentries or whatever. But if you don't have arcane boots, your life just sucks. Or if you don't have, like, a magic wand even. Like, it's so hard to play your hero. You have to play so much better than you would if you had those items.
I was so annoyed right there. I shouldn't have used Thunderstrike on her because she can, like, purge it off of herself. I was like, yeah, be more aware. Like, Thunderstrike someone else.
Yeah. I would say...
And she hits really hard because she has a Crystallis, so...
Holy shit, yeah. That's... I don't... Okay, this is not good, for the record. This is really bad, but it is good at hitting things. She does do a lot of damage.
Yeah, her item, I expected a blink from her first, so that really caught me off guard when she did that. I was like, holy crap, she like almost two-shot me.
Yeah, she actually just crit you every single attack, which is hilarious, but... So this guy got like max effectiveness out of that build, but anyway, it's really bad. She's gonna die for it, so that's fine.
Yeah, but because of that, like, here's my second death. Like, Windrunner blinks past the tower, kills me. She dies, but she kills me too.
Okay, that's fine. Let's look at what caused this. So there are a couple of things that went wrong. Your kinetic field was misplaced, I'd say. Like, it didn't really end up doing too much. I could have placed it better. I think just placing it a little closer would be good. Yeah, so you know there's a fade time on kinetic, or what's it called? A formation delay on fade kinetic field, right? So whatever that means. So it takes 1.2 seconds for it to, like, you know, actually generate the field. And until then, enemies can pass through it. So you definitely want to lead people with it. Yeah, I mean, I don't have too much advice for that other than just practice, I guess. Get used to the timing a little bit. Because, like,
I don't play Disruptor often.
Okay.
He's actually one of my least played supports, but I picked him a lot because of Windrunner and Spirit Breaker for the glimpse.
Yeah, no, he's really good in pubs. You just have to have really good positioning and like spell usage and all that.
Yeah. Which I'm very poor at.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, everyone under like 8K is probably pretty poor at positioning, myself included. So I wouldn't worry about it too much. The best you can, like, just do the best you can and try to improve. So yeah, I mean, honestly, like, my only advice for this is just try to keep in mind that even though this hero looks dead, like you have a bunch of teammates attacking her, you can't just like run up to her because she's still Legion Commander.
Yeah.
She can still get
I
procs
didn't
off.
I didn't know that she had a chrysalis.
Hmm.
I was like, oh my god.
Well, either way, even if she had like a blink dagger or something that gives her no damage, she can still get you to like half in this case, and you don't want to do that. Like you don't want to just lose HP for no reason. Um, so yeah, just be really careful with your positioning. I'd say like it's okay to be in attack range, like of your attack range, but there's no reason for you to walk up into melee range of a Legion, in pretty much any case. So just keep that in mind. As far as this death goes, I mean, let's
I
watch your
shouldn't have
camera here.
turned to help Pudge. I was hoping to like turn and get a glimpse off.
Hmm.
And I do get a glimpse off, but it
Okay.
it, it was I should have just kept going.
Yeah. So
I probably would have died anyways, but I still should have kept going.
the kinetic field was great. This is really good.
But then I glimpsed him out of it.
Yeah, the glimpse was bad. It's just is bad, which is it happens, but it's still pretty goofy.
It
So
was a panic glimpse because I was like, "Save him! Save him!"
yeah, yeah, yeah. So the kinetic field was fine. Again, like this is just kind of a slowing down the moment thing. You don't have to like panic. Oh, I mean, man, I hate saying that because it's so much easier said than done, and I still panic in some of my games. It's something that I've definitely like probably eliminated like 90% of the time. Like I very rarely have those moments. But it still happens to me, so I can't say just like stop panicking. But that's honestly most of
Try
it.
to stop panicking.
Yeah, try to stop panicking. Like try to. I mean, it's different for everybody because like it could be performance anxiety or whatever, or like you don't want your teammates to flame you. But just try to find what it is that causes you to panic, um, and see if you can eliminate that if possible. It's tough, but yeah, because if you're panicking, then it's really hard for you to make decisions properly. Like in this case, you just like you mashed all your buttons trying to save your teammate. So you had the right intention, but didn't really know how to go about actually doing it. And I don't think you could have, honestly. I don't think you could have saved him. But the kinetic field was like the best thing you could have done. So okay. Okay, yeah. So I had one last piece of advice for this fight here. So when you're running away from a fight, all you need to do is click away, like in the general direction that you want to go. Um, and then you need to like start looking around at what's happening up here so you can get a better picture of what's going on. Because like
So is it better to like click the mini map and then just watch what's going on?
I mean it depends. As long as you're moving your camera, it's okay. Just do it in like the most efficient way possible. But what I mean is like, okay, so since you know you're gonna run backwards, you can just like if your camera's here, your hero's here. Yeah, let's go back and find the exact spot actually. Okay. Okay, so here's the point where you decide like, okay, I need to leave. I'm really low. It's time to get out of here. So if your camera's here, you can just click down. I'd say you can move your camera a little bit, click down towards the tower, and that's like where you generally want to go. Obviously, you can make adjustments later, but towards the tower, pretty safe bet. So let's slow it down from here. Okay, so you click down, then immediately you need to start looking like, is Legion Commander continuing to chase me? Is Windrunner getting into blink range? Who's Spiritbreaker charging? Where's Slark? These are all things you need to be looking out for. And since you have full mana, even though these guys have ways to gap close, they're going to use them eventually. Like Spiritbreaker is using his charge here, Windrunner is going to use her blink eventually, Slark's going to use pounce eventually. And if you see that like, okay, all of the potential danger is gone because they use their abilities, I need to cast my spells in some way. So you don't want to just like completely disengage. Like you have the right idea here where you turn and cast spells at a pretty opportune time, I'd say. So like even though Windrunner does kill you, she ends up dying and everything. But do you get what I mean? Like the fight's not over because you're low.
Right.
If you're a range hero and you have spells, it's still not over. You want to like stay at a safe distance and then get ready to re-engage if possible. Obviously, if you're alone, this is completely different because like if there are 4 heroes chasing you and you're alone and you're really low, like okay, you're not going to turn and re-engage in most cases. So yeah, but that situation happens a lot as a support where you'll get focused at the start of a fight, barely live, run away, and then good support players will stick around and try their best to contribute, whereas like a less experienced support player might just run back to fountain or whatever.
Okay.
Okay. So yeah, I think we should recap pretty much most of what happened here. So the game started out with Spearbreaker being solo against you and PA, and you chose to pull out the start, where instead you should have you should have zoned him at the start. That would have been in your best interest. It can be tough to identify like which heroes are zonable, if that makes sense. Like in this case, you can kind of know that Spiritbreaker is zonable just because a disruptor with Thunderstrike does a shit ton of damage. To be frank, and Spiritbreaker is a melee hero, and he also didn't have a stout shield, and he also didn't have a lot of regen. So in order for him to trade with you, he has to get into melee range. So if he ever charges you, then all you need to do is run back to the creeps. And then, at that point, he has to run back. Or, I mean, I guess he could, like, try to fight you in the creeps, but that's just really dumb. He doesn't have the HP or damage to do that. So that should have been your main goal in this game. I think that's actually pretty impactful, that decision to go pull instead of zoning him. Because, like, this guy he's already involved in 5 kills in, like, 12 minutes. So, like, he's doing pretty well for himself. Whereas if he hadn't gotten so many levels at a bottom lane, maybe he wouldn't have contributed as much.
Right.
Yeah, and I think he could have done a lot more in this game too. So maybe a better player would have been able to punish you guys for that a little bit more. But that was probably the biggest decision or biggest incorrect decision out of all of this game. At least for you. I'd say that was that was definitely the biggest one. What else was there? There was like the positioning thing and the camera movement thing, but I think those are pretty minor, and those are also things where like there's not an easy fix, like whereas the other one was like, okay, instead of pulling, you zone the Spirit Breaker. There's no like position better button that you can press, which sort of sucks, but yeah.
It'd be nice if there was.
Yeah, maybe Dota would be a little bit less popular though, if it was that easy. But yeah.
It's so much easier now than it used to be too. They've made so many changes
Oh
now
yeah,
to
for
make
sure.
it a lot easier, like being able to see the spawn box and the tower range.
No, for sure. That I think that's good though. Like it's more accessible now because like this being able to see the spawn boxes and stuff or not being able to see them was so arbitrary. Like it's kind of like fake complexity. Like yes, it adds depth to the game, but it's like is it really necessary? I don't know. Like I think it's still an extremely deep game, just
Oh,
even
very.
without even with
It's
these being here.
I'm glad they put that there because it's so much easier for supports to, ward without blocking a camp. Because if
Right,
you
right,
block a camp, it's super obvious. Like you just blocked a camp.
right. No, I definitely agree. Okay. So do you have any like final questions or stuff that you want to talk about or anything like that?
Um, as far as like early game, no, like this is just where this game like later when we start fighting, I freak out and buy a bunch of sentries because Slark
hmm
starts eating me. But other than that, not really.
Okay. Well, a little bit of what we talked about will address the Slark issue. It's just like constantly be looking out for new information, like especially in team fights. Actually, I think it's most important then. Like just before a team fight starts and like as a team fight is happening, like trying to accurately assess what's going on is really important. Like, did Windrunner blink? Has Slark shown up yet? Do I still need to look out for him? Who is Spearbreaker charging? Did Legion Commander duel? Has she bought a BKB yet, or is she still on her Chrysalis? God, this is so bad. Like,
I'm so glad to hear you say that about
yeah.
somebody that's not me.
No, this is not good. But yeah, I think you understand my point though. Is like that will, if you gather more information, it will make positioning easier
Right.
because then you can position relative to the threats on the enemy team and who your strong teammates are. That too. Um, but yeah, that's something we can work on next time if you want. It's just like positioning in team fights or whatever. Okay, so yeah, if you don't have any other questions, then probably should wrap up here. I hope this was helpful.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot.
Okay.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Because I mean, I've gone back and watched a lot of my own games, but it's really hard for somebody to know what they did wrong,
Yeah.
like when their fundamentals are like not there.
Right. Yeah, for sure. I definitely
So
understand that. It can be helpful to have a second set of eyes to look over stuff.
now I didn't bother counter wording here because we were more playing more aggressive than they were. They weren't like trying to gank or you know what I mean.
hmm
But should I have bothered to counter word?
Yes, but it's not something where like you just kind of guess where they would have wards. It has to be educated guessing. Like, okay, so let's say you guys were fighting top or whatever. That happened at one point in this game. Was there Coddle here? Was he there at the time? And
Yeah,
like, was he the one who's buying wards? Okay, so if he's the one who's buying wards in this game, then it's pretty unlikely that they're gonna go bottom and like ward up your jungle. So you don't have to worry about that. Whereas if you saw Coddle farming bottom and you guys were fighting top, then all of a sudden he just disappears, and like you see him run out mid later and he has no wards. Then you would say like, okay, so he put a ward somewhere in here. And that's when you would go try to deward. And you
right.
just kind of have to guess where it is. But it's definitely not something where you would just like randomly, like cover your entire map with sentries to try to find wards or whatever. It's got to be an educated guess kind of thing.
Okay. Yeah, I ended up covering a lot of the map in centuries anyways, because I got
Yeah, because
sick
it's
of
like,
being eaten.
yeah. I mean, that's something you can work on too. It's just like trying to find the places where, this is pretty heady again, but like trying to find the most efficient sentry places where like you'll be defending yourself, but you won't have to like use an entire blanket. You can just use like how do I explain this? Okay, so like your approach was just like cover the entire map with sentries so that there's nowhere to hide. Whereas like okay, Sark only has a few possible ways to go in, so you can just cover those areas, and that's fine. And that will do the same thing as blanketing. Again, it's just kind of like educated guessing, um, which is something you can improve over time, which is nice. Um,
Yeah,
yeah.
I basically stuck with the team and then just dropped a sentry where we were. Like if I knew we were about to push a tower or
Hmm.
whatever, I'd put a sentry like right about where the team fight would probably happen if they came to defend.
Okay, yeah, that's completely fine. Um, yeah, I mean that's it depends on where you place the sentry, obviously, but I mean that's the idea is correct. That's all you got to do, really. Um, okay, so I think that's about it. Um, yeah, do you have any final questions or anything?
Not really. Hopefully, like I'll be able to like take this, absorb it, and actually like retain it and implement
Yeah, no, I think I'll be able
it.
to. Most of it was pretty tough, but I think the if you want to take one thing from this game is at the start of every game as a support, you need to like try to identify who you're laning against. Can I zone them, or do I have to like go and stack and pull or whatever? That and the pulling through thing. I think those are the two things that you should focus on, because those are what matter like way more than anything else. Um, and also, if you get better at those things, they will like kind of affect the other parts of the game as well in certain ways. So just focus on the lane, I think. I think that would be in your best interest.
And here's the part where I'm like, God, I wish I was level 6.
Yeah. All right. Well, yeah, I think that about wraps things up. I'm gonna let you go. If you have any questions or whatever, just feel free to Skype me. Um, so we can cover the rest of your time like whenever you want. I'd say it's probably best to wait around a week of you playing, then we can do the next session. Um, can do it like
Yeah,
whenever you think is good though.
so what I was gonna say, I wanted to do more than just like one session because I want to see some improvement. I would like to